Al, it is time once again to get cooperative. Cooperative.
We do that
Yes.
sometimes.
We do that sometimes. You are correct. Sometimes we are cooperative. Sometimes I guess we're not cooperative. It's the opposite side of that.
I mean, single player games?
Sure. I guess
Yeah.
that would make sense.
Yeah.
Either way, we're being cooperative today.
Yes.
Here on this week's episode of the Seasonal Anime Checkup OVA. It's a podcast where we have conversations about video games, anime, and manga. Hello, I'm Jared, joined as always by Doc, Alvin, Lady.
Hello.
This is episode number 434, and we are discussing Split Fiction.
Yes.
This is the new game from Hazelight.
Mm-hmm. They do
the
these
makers,
things.
the makers of A Way Out, of It Takes Two. The cooperative video games.
Turns out they're good at that.
It turns out they have a niche, and they are pretty good at their niche.
Yeah. They make fun video games in this niche.
Yes. This is their new game. This game came out on the PlayStation, the Xbox, and the PC on March 6th, 2025. It is also coming to the Nintendo Switch 2 on June 5th, 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this is the new game from them. Let's talk a little bit about the development of it, because there's not a whole lot here, and then we'll talk about reception, and we'll talk about the video game.
Okay.
This was, of course, first announced by game director Joseph Fares at the Game Awards 2024. The development started following the release of It Takes Two in 2021, which I feel like that feels fake.
That feels fake. No
Ugh.
way. That sounds so fake.
That sounds very fake.
Oh my God.
A team of 80 people built the game using Unreal 5. The two characters named after Fares' two daughters, and Fares compared the game's narrative to that of a buddy movie, as the two characters star as complete strangers who must slowly bond with each other in order to survive.
I can see that.
Fares wrote that one of the biggest challenges developing a game with diverse gameplay mechanics was to ensure that each mechanic was fully polished. While a gameplay sequence utilizing a certain gameplay mechanic may only last for several minutes, the team had to work on them for months to ensure its controls were sufficiently intuitive. Intuitive. And yeah, this also does the same thing that the previous games does, where if one person buys it, you can download the demo, quote unquote, and play it with your friend that way.
That's still such a smart move.
It's very good. It's got cross-platform play, and then I guess the Switch 2 version is going to have a thing where if you are in the same room, you can kind of do that similarly, but you don't have to do download the other person doesn't have to download it, I guess.
Oh, huh.
It's some funky thing that they're doing with that when it's local co-op.
Okay.
That. This game got a lot of acclaim from reviewers. Metacritic has it as the PC version of a 90 out of 100, PS5 91 out of 100, and the Xbox at a 92 out of 100. And OpenCritic has 98% of reviewers recommending the game. It sold 1 million units within the first 2 days of release, and within the first week, it surpassed 2 million units. So, hey, people like this game.
Wow. Film adaptation.
And apparently a film adaptation is in development.
Huh.
Which I feel like would not work as well, considering some of the stuff this game does, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff in this that works well because it's a game, and the way that they're able to pull it off is really, really cool. But I can't imagine how it would work in a film. But I guess I shouldn't write it off before it happens.
A lot of green screens, probably.
Most likely, yes.
Yes. Yeah, when we were playing this, we were talking kind of about one of the neat things that this game does is obviously it is a game called Split Fiction, and you are kind of sometimes splitting between two different fictions, as the titular two characters are authors who specialize in different genres, essentially. So you'll have different takes on their stories and everything, and you are going through each character's individual story and all that sort of stuff. And there's some stuff later in the game where they basically make the game where you are playing through kind of sections of both character stories at the same time. So the worlds are kind of merging together, essentially. And it's a lot of really neat tech stuff that they're able to pull off with.
It's so cool.
With some of this in-game stuff that I would really love to hear them talk about like how they were able to pull all that stuff out or
Mm-hmm.
pull stuff off, excuse me, because it looks like it probably was a big headache to do, and also it's very neat looking and like
It's technically really impressive.
it's very impressive for sure. Yeah.
And it works really well too. Like it doesn't
Hmm.
just look nice, it actually plays really nice too,
Yeah, like
which can be difficult.
because essentially they are building two levels that you are playing simultaneously, and like both of us will have like it's like the same setup, like in terms of like the structure and architecture of the level,
Hmm.
but it'll be different themes for both of us. So like stuff in my level will be technically the same as yours, but like it'll be themed very differently than how it is in mine.
Right. And then there are sections where like it crosses over where like
Yeah.
you can literally switch off into someone else's section. You're like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Very
really
cool.
cool.
A lot of really fun level design, I think, throughout this game in
Hmm.
general, in terms of like they are, both characters, like I said, one is the science fiction author, one is a fantasy author,
Hmm.
and you're getting multiple takes on those genres within this game because like the levels are basically different stories or different ideas for stories essentially that each author had come up with. So, you're kind of getting similar ideas throughout, but they are different takes on that genre. So you are getting, different styles of levels throughout.
Hmm.
And like sometimes they're not necessarily huge levels, but like each level has its own identity. It each looks different. It each like feels different. And I think that was also something that was really well done.
Hmm. And we get like a breakdown of like what the plot's supposed to be by the author, like
Yeah.
before we get really deep into it.
Hmm.
So that's cool. We get an idea of like, all right, well, here's the setting. This is what's gonna happen. Let's see. Or then like some of the like I forget what they're called, but the little sub stories.
Yeah.
Some of them they're like, I don't actually remember this at all. And then
Or it's
like,
just like, this is a piece of an idea I had essentially.
right, and like you'll get through it and they're like, oh, I remember this now. Okay.
I think the side stories as well were kind of some of the more interesting
Yes.
parts of the gameplay because like you would just get these little snapshots of
Little
ideas and everything,
vignettes.
and they were just like usually all very different from what you would be doing in the actual level itself, and they're all kind
Hmm.
of just different from each other.
And they're
um
wild.
they are very wild. Sometimes you get to be a pig and just roll around in the mud, and then oh god, now I'm a hot dog.
You go for a pig that can either basically like fly or like fart rainbows
Yep.
to having to grill yourself and put yourself on a hot dog bun,
It's so funny.
which like man, that whole thing I was like, oh, picnic basket. I have a bad feeling about this. Then it sends you into a meat grinder.
And it's also funny that that's the first one they start you off with.
Right? Like what a way to set the tone. Oh my God.
uh,
That was wild.
but yeah, you have that one. There's one that's basically like bootleg SSX.
Mm-hmm. There's the hot potato bomb one that's like a
Yes, like a game
game
show.
show.
Um, what else is there? There's one where you're like doing like a birthday party and it turns into evil horror
Dentist.
dentist story. You're just like, what is happening here?
Yeah, we play as little bouncing teeth.
There's one where just a bunch of giants just fling us around.
Yeah, that one was fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just very. It was a good
Oh,
like. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say there's the one with the little ghost cats and like all the
Yes.
the witchy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That one was fun. We got to like goblin at each other and like turn each other into weird stuff and be a trumpet and ride
Doot
on
doot.
snails. And then you broke a dude's heart because you took all of his balloons in that one.
Here is a story for you. A young man had a balloon fly away from him. At the same time, a giant snail was riding past him.
Life is simply unfair. Don't you?
Life is simply unfair.
The motives are complex.
These are yes, yes.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
were really creative and fun.
Yeah, it was a really good way to like break up the levels themselves, so that you do something different. Like I said, a lot of times it was just like you were doing something very completely different. Um, that really helped kind of just like break things up for you all around. But yeah, the actual levels themselves are all very like varied and unique.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You get like different types of like special abilities that you use to
yeah,
traverse
yeah,
through
yeah,
the
yeah.
worlds.
And of course you're got to do like various cooperative puzzles and everything to get through different areas that require sometimes your special abilities are just like working together on both sides of your screen, or I guess if you're playing it online, your own screen,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't think they do split screen on when you're playing it, like if you both have bought the copy.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of fun times to be had here. How would you feel the gameplay and all that stuff ranks compared to the other two games we've played?
I mean, I think it was an extremely competent game. I didn't really run into any issues.
Yeah.
Um, the only thing that was slightly weird is there was a lot of like grappling hook swinging, but like that's
Mm-hmm.
fine. I didn't hate that.
Parkour.
Parkour. But yeah, I think it was an extremely like it played well. It was very tight. It was a lot of fun.
Yes. Um, some good Easter eggs from the other games as well.
Oh my God. There was a part where I ripped the parts off of the little elephant again and I felt really bad.
That was very fun.
Like, oh no. And then obviously A Way Out had one too.
Yeah, we saw the dudes and then we immediately just did the thing because I think we
Yep.
we realized like, oh, this is gonna be a thing, and there's like, they're gone.
We killed them.
Whoops.
Yeah. Oopsie doopsie.
Whoops.
I mean, in our defense, we didn't know. We
Yeah,
didn't,
we were just doing stuff.
we didn't know they were gonna die.
We were on a roll.
We were doing things.
Uh huh.
Sorry, you probably hear things happening. I'm trying to get the boys to be distracted so I can keep recording.
The boys.
The boys.
Now there's some cooperative fellers.
Yeah, no kidding. Here, play cooperative with your puzzle treats so I can record.
They're like, no, we're gonna be gremlins.
Gremlins. But yeah, I felt really, really bad when I had that lasso and I was like, oh, look, it's the elephant. And then just ripped body parts off. I'm like, no, the trauma's back. No. Yeah,
That's how they
what
get you.
did you think about the gameplay?
Um, I I would say it's probably maybe like the tightest they've done so far in terms of like mixing in just like their typical platforming action puzzle gameplay and everything, but
Hmm.
also just like having so many different things that you could do throughout. Like obviously the other games do this as well.
Right.
It Takes Two especially did this, in terms of its level design and all that.
Hmm.
Um, but it definitely I think felt like there was just more variety here
Yes.
scattered throughout that I think really helped elevate it a little more in terms of the gameplay and all that.
Hmm. The bad news is I'm terrible at flying.
Yes.
Yeah, I was really, really bad at that.
And you do have to do some flying in this game.
Yeah, I was like, oh no. Oh no. This
Oh
is
no.
bad.
But yeah. Story wise, it's a story.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is not very subtle in terms of what it is trying to tell you.
Hey, capitalism's bad.
Yes. As the old saying goes, I know writers who use subtext and they are all cowards.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
But yeah, you play as Mio and Zoe, and they basically are going to this publisher with the chance that they will be able to get published and everything, along with some other writers. But then when they get there, they're like, "Oh, we're gonna put you in this machine that basically lets you play out your story you submitted.
Nothing weird or suspicious about
Nothing
this.
strange about that. We're gonna put you on these bubbles, and that's it."
Here's your weird little
Um,
jumpsuits.
Yeah, so everyone kind of does that, and Mio's like, I don't want to do this, and the head of the dude Raider's like, no, you're gonna stay, and then they get into a little bit of an argument, and she gets thrown into Zoe's bubble, and then that's kind of like messes everything up because it kind of just like glitches or start appearing where they can kind of go between their own different stories, and then like weird things are happening within those stories, and they're breaking the machine and everything.
Mhm.
Obviously, if you can kind of read between the lines here, the machine is the machine is a metaphor for AI generated art and
Yep.
stealing ideas like that. It's just like, okay,
Yep.
real subtle here.
Real subtle, but like, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's good to say.
Yes.
But yeah, it is interesting. You've got like it's so funny that the villain is a dude who looks like he shops at the Gap. Like it makes sense. It totally makes sense because I mean that's kind of how AI is, but I don't know. They probably don't even shop at the Gap. I
I
don't
feel
know.
like the one weird part about the story and everything is that like all the shareholders are like, when the machine starts freaking out and like they can't get these people out of there, like, oh, we gotta shut this thing down. We gotta shut this thing down.
They
And it's
wouldn't do
like,
that.
no, come on. They would be like, all right, grind them into paste.
Yep. Like the main villain did. He wanted to grind them into paste.
Yeah,
He
like
didn't care.
they would not be calling the cops on this guy. They'd just be like,
No.
whatever.
Yeah,
You keep doing
whatever.
what you're doing.
My favorite
Hopefully,
thing is when he
if
just
they die,
breaks
they die.
he breaks the screen. It's like that doesn't hang up the Zoom call.
Yes, he just breaks his monitor. Is like, it's just one of them. Just like, we're still here.
We're still here.
We can still see you.
You didn't actually turn off the call. You just can't see us now.
You just can't see us.
It's like, oh, okay. But yeah, you also have like the scientists who are like going along with it for a while and then finally find a moral compass, but then it's too late to backtrack what they've been doing. So, again, subtlety is dead, but um there are worse things they could be doing here.
True.
But then you also get to learn about Zoe and Mio's trauma.
Trauma. We got some trauma
Yay!
here. Yeah,
Yay!
essentially, this whole thing starts because like, like they're in the same bubble. They're not supposed to be there, and they are polar opposites with each other. Where like Mio's kind of more reserved and introverted and everything, kind of
Kind of
doesn't
like a
want to.
realist.
Yeah, she's a realist and doesn't want to like really deal with people, while Zoe's very outgoing, extroverted, wants to see the best at everything and all that. So it's like,
Kind of naive.
yeah, two
Um,
opposites here attract, and then they have to work together to get through all of their different stories, and that of course leads them to start bonding more, and we learn more and more with each individual's backstory, and that kind of brings them closer together and everything. And
then they become best friends like us.
yes,
Except for we were pretty much best friends like pretty quick. They didn't get along very well on this for a
yeah,
while.
we fought each other a lot. We just like come to blows every time we would talk, and then now it's like, oh yeah, ha ha ha. That is not what happened, but
No, no. I do like that it like let us pick um the character because we were looking at the beginning to see like what are their character traits and all that and
yeah.
like who are we gonna pick? And um yeah, I went with Zoe. I was the fantasy gal.
I was Mio. Err.
Err. Yeah, you had
Uh,
some cool stuff that you got to do. I mean, I got to do some cool stuff too, but I keep thinking about like your like anti-gravity stuff that you did for a while with that like
mhm.
sword. That was so cool.
I got to be a monkey.
You did get to be a monkey.
Okay.
I got to be a tree and control the universe, and that was cool.
That was terrifying.
I had so much power.
Just making spikes appear and killing me.
That was accidental.
mm.
I didn't mean to kill you.
Mm.
It was an accident.
It was an accident. Remember our balls we had?
Yeah.
We had some balls we got to hang out with. I
Mm-hmm.
got to become a boat and just ferry you around.
Yep. Which apparently there was a shark in one of those too, which we missed thankfully. Otherwise, it would have been terrifying.
We avoided that one.
We got to hang out with some dragons.
Yeah, we got to see some dragons grow up.
They were little babies, and they became little not babies.
They became big babies.
And then they ate an eyeball.
Oh, that was so cool. My dragon ate an eyeball.
It was really cool.
It's a good time.
Yeah, that was pretty rad, honestly. That was a really cool sequence.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, the big thing is, overcoming each character's trauma, which is baked into. Hey, I don't know if you know this or not.
What?
I know people love to use the death of the author and all that sort of stuff, and talk about how, like, when there are problematic people who make works of art and everything, they're like, oh well, they're not in the art that they make. That's just not how that works. You're full of shit.
Yeah.
That is how that works.
Right.
You can't escape it.
There's always some inspiration there.
There's always some part of the person who made the art in the art. That is how art works.
Yep.
And of course that comes to play in this game where, like, both of the characters' different forms of trauma are represented in both of their works.
Mm-hmm.
So, you learn Mio's backstory where, like, she's like having to take care of her dad who's not doing so well and everything.
And Zoe keeps asking her, like, so this seems really personal with this whole like debt thing that you keep having to run into.
Yeah.
Like, what is happening here? She's like,
it's nothing.
It's like, okay, yeah, this all makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a lot of like Mio stuff, is like it's more dark and all that sort of stuff. So,
but then we get that neat story with like the octopus dad.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Where she basically is like, yeah, I wrote my dad in this so he could be saved and I could save him.
He could be free.
Shocker, an author puts their own feelings into their work. I can't believe this is how this works.
What? No way.
And Zoe's whole thing is she keeps talking about how, like, her and her sister, would write stories together and come up with stories together, and a lot of, like, that was influential into her writing and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole time you're kind of just like, okay, well, where's the twist here? When's the other shoe drop here? And then, it becomes later on through the game where you learn that, like, oh, her sister died when she was younger.
And she was a twin.
Drowned. She was a twin. She drowned, and Zoe blames herself for her sister dying and everything. And you have to go through this whole sequence of, like, having Zoe kind of like relive that whole thing and like fight back against it and eventually come to terms and accept everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mio also has to come and face to face with her, like herself. She has to come face to face with her shadow, essentially.
Yeah.
Putting this into Persona terms, where you have to fight against the negative version of herself that's full of all like the bad thoughts and bad feelings and everything that she used when things were not going so well, and you got to fight back against that and learn to accept that part of yourself, essentially.
It was a little on the nose with her like going into the like negative version of her and like manipulating the head, and I was like,
yeah.
That works, I guess.
Like I said, this game is not subtle.
No, it's not, but it was interesting. Yeah, those were actually, both of them were really good sequences, I think, of dealing with these characters. And I do remember there was one part where Zoe was like, yeah, I talk to my sister every day. I was like, oh, so her sister's okay. And you're like,
that doesn't mean that.
That doesn't mean that. And I was like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
See, we were personifying our characters there.
Yeah, we really were. Yeah, there were a few times that I was like, I was like, oh God, I really am like Zoe sometimes. I picked the right character for me, honestly. Like, I don't have the extrovert part of it, but a lot of the things that she said and did, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I picked the right character. Except for the shark. That part was not cool.
Not cool.
Don't put sharks that come at me in games.
Get out of here.
Do not perceive me with sharks.
So yeah, you get over your trauma, as you do.
Except for my shark trauma.
Except for your shark trauma. And then Raider kind of falls into the machine himself and then basically tries to take it over and wipe you out at the same time. And this is where things kind of like I said, we talked about early on, go kind of haywire, and the worlds start merging together. Because the machine's basically like destroying itself because it's like all, everything.
It's overloaded.
It's overloading, essentially, yeah. So, like, worlds are merging together, and this leads you to a lot of very interesting gameplay portions here in the final parts, which were really fun. They, made us work together really well, had us thinking. There was, like, a pinball sequence.
Yeah!
where like you were the ball and I was like the flippers and everything and the plunger.
Yeah.
Surprised I remember that off the cuff there. That was really, I'm very proud of myself.
I'm also really proud of you.
That part was fun because like, we had to work together with timing and everything. And yeah, like just a lot of those last sections in terms of the gameplay were really fun.
They were really fun and creative.
Really creative, really technically impressive, like we talked about early on and everything. And eventually you beat Raider, you get out of the machine, the cops are the security guards arrest him. And then you leave as pals, and then a year goes by, and you meet up at Mio's dad's grave, and you're like, we made a book together.
Split Fiction. Mio's like,
wow,
we really could have rethought this title, huh? And I was like, well, you guys get the whole point about subtlety too, huh?
Womp womp.
Womp womp. But yeah, they're going to their book launch.
Yes.
They're excited about it.
Yay.
Yay, so they're walking together and they're besties now.
Yay.
I think Mio gets mad because she calls her besties.
Yeah, until she's like finally gives in. It's like, all right.
Yes, we're besties.
Yeah, fun. Again, I think Hazelight continues to make fun games of this, the cooperative multiplayer nature.
Yeah.
Where like you can only play it cooperatively and everything. Like they have, like I said earlier, they have their niche. They are very good at it.
They're very good at it.
And like I hope they continue to make games like this because they are fun. They're interesting. They're not necessarily the greatest in terms of writing, in terms of story, but like
they're not bad either, though.
Yeah, I wouldn't say
except
they're
for the
terrible
ending of It Takes Two. That was not good. They should not have gotten back together. That was bad. That was bad, and I will stand by that.
But also, I don't think you're necessarily here for like the knockout stories. You're here for
fun playing with your friends.
Gameplay. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
that's what you're here for.
And they knocked that out of the park. It's so fun, and I still like really, really applaud them for having the like friend pass type thing because like they don't have to do that, but it makes it so that it's a lot easier and a lot more fun. Like more people play these games because of that.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that's such a smart move. And they're really creative. They're really, really creative games, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
If they keep going the route that they went with this one, like I can't wait to see what kind of wild stuff we get next time. Maybe we won't get turned into hot dogs next time, but
I mean, we'll get probably turned into something traumatic at some point.
Oh yeah. I mean, it seems like that's a trend is that there's got to be some kind of like trauma thing that happens to us at some point.
Yeah.
But hot dog, why not? There's probably going to be a reference to a hot dog at some point and
I hope so. That would be very funny. Like I said, there was references to like all the other games in this. Even like Brothers there was I think a trophy reference to that. So
I haven't played that one.
I like it. I mean, obviously it is a single player game, but you control both the characters with each individual analog stick.
Right.
So it's really interesting in terms of like how it does the gameplay and that sort of stuff. But yeah, I enjoyed it when I played that 10 years ago or so.
Oh my god, I have to play it sometime, but I haven't done it yet.
I know they put it back out like on the newer consoles at some point as like a remastered version or something. But yeah. But yeah, that's a Split Fiction.
Yeah, we splitted the fictions.
We did split those fictions.
And I was accidentally Zoe a few times. And by
AI
a few times,
is bad.
Most of the time. AI is bad. That is confirmed and so real. And
AI is bad. Authors put stuff in their works.
What?
Now you understand how art works.
And like literally it says in the development like he named the characters after his daughters. So like
yeah, exactly.
Like that's literally the author putting something of his real life into the game. No subtlety.
Yeah, fun time.
Yeah, it was really good time.
To play it, have some good times with my pal.
Thanks for playing with me.
Of course.
It was fun.
And that's gonna do it for us this week. So if you'd like more from us, head on over to seasonlandcheckup.com or sac.cool is where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like Jared Now Watch. You can also find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you'd like more from Ann Ladium, go to annladium.com. She's got columns and reviews. You can follow us on Twitter and TikTok at Anime Checkup. Follow us on Blue Sky at seasonlandcheckup.com. You can buy our books, One Shiny Moment, A Critical Analysis of Love, Life, Sunshine, and Hot Tubs and Pac-Man on Amazon.com. And you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA. Buy us a slice of pizza, get access to unedited versions of the podcast early, our monthly exclusive Patreon podcast, and a whole wealth of other bonus content on the Patreon as well.
Yep.
Next week we'll talk about, I don't know, something.
I have an Otome game to talk about.
All right, well, we could do that.
Yeah, Despero drops.
Well, there you go. We'll probably talk about that unless something else comes up.